You're on, sir.
Okay. Welcome everyone, and welcome today to it's 1 o'clock, and welcome to today's meeting of Health, Education, Neighborhood, Parks, Arts, and Rivers Committee. And this meeting is called to order. And I'd like to note that the audio for this meeting is broadcast live on the internet at www.lacity.org/government/follow meetings. That's one word, /council-committee-meetings. The live audio can also be heard at 213-621-2489 or 310-471-2489 or 310-547-2489 or 818-904-9450. Members of the public who would like to offer public comment on the items listed on the agenda should call 1-669-254-5252 and use meeting ID number 161-015-2287. And then press pound again when prompted for participant ID. Once you're admitted into the meeting, please press *9 to request to speak. Mr. Clerk, can you please take the roll?
Certainly, sir. Councilmember David Drew.
Present.
Councilmember Mitch O'Farrell.
Present.
Councilmember Karen D. Price.
Present.
Everyone's present, sir. You have a quorum.
Great, thank you. So colleagues, at this point, I'd like to open up public comment and remind those who have called in to please state your name and the items you would like to speak on when you're prompted to do so. Andrew, you want to take it over?
Caller with the last four digits ending in 2212. Please press *6 to unmute. Please state your name and the items you would like to speak on. Caller with the last four digits ending in 2212. Please press *6 to unmute, and then please state your name and the items you would like to speak on. One more time. Caller with the last four digits ending in 2212. Please press *6 to unmute, then please state your name and the items you would like to speak on.
Third time's a charm. This is Glenn Bailey. Public comment. And also, I filed a community impact statement for Northridge East Neighborhood Council.
Got it. So that was for item 1 and general public comment?
Correct.
So we could give, if he filed a public impact statement, we could give him 5 minutes, correct?
Yes. You may begin with your comment for item number 1. You have 5 minutes.
Bailey, I am officially speaking as president of the Northridge East Neighborhood Council, which has filed 2 community impact statements on this council file item. The first vote by mail, which I know is what's being considered. The second one was last night at our regular morning. And that has a position from the report to be.
You know, caller, 1 second. I don't know if it's just me, but the caller is really coming in and out. I really can't hear the caller. Is that for everyone else as well? Can you maybe call back in with a better connection because your reception is really bad?
Okay.
We'll wait for you. We go to the next caller, Andrew. Get back.
Yes. Caller with the last four digits ending in 1403. Please press *6 to unmute. Then please state your name and the items you would like to speak on.
Wayne from Encino, David Rue, re-election supporter, all items and general public comment.
You have 2 minutes for your items and 1 minute for general public comment.
Okay.
You may begin.
Very good. Item number 1, the conduct of the neighborhood council elections. Their conduct is fucking shit. They don't treat none of us good. How are the homeless going to vote? If you don't have a mailing address and you don't have a physical address and you don't have an ID, how the hell are you going to get a mail-in ballot to vote if you're homeless? What if you're disabled? Like, for example, my neighbor Chucky. Chucky is a mentally disturbed, retarded homeless patient, and he needs to vote in person. So, in the name of the ADA, you must allow in-person voting for people with disability. Like most of the city councilmen you work with who are disabled. For example, Mitchell Farrell, he's disabled. Curran Price is disabled. So, how's Curran Price and Mitchell Farrell going to vote in their neighborhood council election? So, no on number 1, send it back. Now we have the Department of Aging and Community Activity Living Independent and Free. Let's waive all property taxes in the city of Los Angeles for anyone over the age of 50. Then we can live independently and free. How's that sound? I think it sounds good. Now, we also have on our agenda the Cultural Affairs Report. The Cultural Affairs does absolutely nothing for the city, and you know it. So I'll get to my general. Do I have my 1 minute?
Yes, you may begin.
Yes, so my general comment is we have a pivotal election. We have David Rue running for re-election against a traitor, Nithya Rahman, who claims she's just a community member but has enough money to put full-page ads in the LA Times. Where is this money coming from? Where did she get all this money? And the answer is through the same shit that fucking Weezer gets money from. So, no on Nithya Rahman, yes on David Rue for re-election. David Rue is actually trying to stop corruption. He's doing a very good job and a good job on most things. Nithya Rahman is a fucking cunt. So vote no on her, yes David Rue, and no on her blessing for the Board of Supervisors. So there's the 2 things. Everything else you don't have to vote on because it doesn't matter. So that's the way we're going to do it. There you go.
Thank you for your
and
comments.
David Bailey.
Caller with the last 4 digits of 2212. Please press *6 to unmute. Mr. Bailey.
Oh, this is Glenn Bailey again.
Great. You have 5 minutes for your comments for item 1, and you will get 1 minute for general public comment.
Okay, thank you. I'll start with the most important points in case I get disconnected. So my name is Glenn Bailey. I'm president of the Northridge East Neighborhood Council. We did file 2 community impact statements, one earlier in August regarding the vote by mail, and then as a result of action taken last night in response to the items in the report you'll be considering now, City Clerk and the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment. Before I make my comment, I do want to thank Councilmember Rue and his staff for facilitating a community impact statement that was only filed today. So thank you. So this is regarding page 7 of the report you have in front of you. The paragraph right above the conclusion, which references in terms of online voting, everyone counts the vendor who rendered services in 2016 is no longer operational. As of now, the city clerk has not researched vendors who could provide the customization required for neighborhood council elections, nor would a contract be procured in a timely manner to maintain the current election schedule for 2021. If directed, city clerk staff will work to identify viable vendors for future online elections. The is that in 2015, the Board of Neighborhood Commissioners reviewed multiple bidders, companies that do online voting. Although the company that was selected and did operate the online voting in 2006 elections subsequently did go out of business, you do have a list on file with the city of companies that are able to do online voting. And while I do know the city takes a while to do up contracts and set things up, and I'm fully aware of the lead time that the city clerk needs and Dunn needs in order to operate, and neighborhood councils need to set up elections, it probably would have been wise to have considered this all as one of the options before submitting the report, in early August, and at least made contact with the companies already on file and see if any of them, still are able to do that. So what they should have is, in fact, that one of the bidders has indicated that they can provide the services for substantially less than the amount of money that the city is looking at expending for this cycle, to the tune of half. And while I again recognize it's rather late in the game, and for the record, I do support moving ahead with the vote by mail, but I wanted to take the opportunity, since it's in the report and since my neighborhood council did vote, to support the serious consideration of online voting in 2021, and absolutely for 2023, if in fact it's accurate that the costs would be half of a traditional expenses. I realize that may mean not hiring as many city employees, but I do think the city needs to look at the bottom line cost to the city. I think that's very important, especially when you're looking in the magnitude of $1 million. If it takes the city so long to develop contracts, if you can't do it for 2021, please, this paragraph that I read very seriously, and now, simultaneously, while you're focused on 2021. Secondly, do want to stress the importance in having successful election cycle. While we do have challenges with outreach, we have challenges with getting the voter registration applications in so people can get their vote by mail, and then of course getting people to get their ballots back. I know the city clerk has experience with that part of that in doing municipal elections. Concern I hope that you'll focus on is the need for the really important outreach effort to let the public know for potential candidates. Because without an adequate number of candidates and participation and meeting those deadlines, the candidate filing deadline, which is 45-day period, and I do want to thank City Clerk for extending that.
Caller, please move on to your general public comment.
Okay, the general public comment, thank you. The general public comment is, I am concerned that the agendas, in this case for agenda item number 1, did not include the fact that there were 4 community impact statements filed by 4 different neighborhood councils. And I still am concerned that there hasn't been an explanation as to why those neighborhood councils were not listed and their positions with regards to this. Even if it's only the one that filed after the previous action. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Caller with the last 4 digits of 5384, please press *6 to unmute. Then please state your name and the items you would like to speak on.
This is Tony Wilkinson from Panorama City, speaking as an individual, and I'd like to speak on agenda item number 1.
You have 1 minute for your public item comments. You may begin now.
Thank you. I'm not sure whether or not it's included in the Dunn report, but I believe it is relevant, and I am very concerned about the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment suggestion that they will require all elected board members to be seated at one time, say on July 1st. This is really a terrible idea. Since the beginning of neighborhood councils, upon certification of the election, the people elected have been able to immediately begin their duty on the board. The Dunn proposal would allow lame duck, unelected people to continue acting, including allocating the remaining funds for the fiscal year and setting the next fiscal year budget instead of the newly elected people. It would also make it harder to educate all people at the same time versus staged education of new board members, such as staged elections by the city clerk matching their limited resources. So I hope that we do
Thank you
not
for your comments.
allow that.
Thank you for your comments. Caller with the last 4 digits of 7719, please press *6 to unmute. Then please state your name and the items you would like to speak on.
Greetings. It's Eric Previn, and I'll give a short public comment and a comment on all the items.
You have 2 minutes for your items and 1 minute for general public comment. Please begin with your item comment.
Okay. Well, first I'd like to talk about the Gold Hirsch grant of $100,000, followed by a $10,000 grant from Annenberg. It's just a teeny bit murky as to where that money is going. So I was looking closely, and it's good. It's to create a program where kids can learn, create, play, connect, and live. But again, what does that mean exactly? But here's the question: why is LAPF, the foundation or whatever, why are they assessing a 10% fee for this kind of thing? That just seems a little bit like kind of off, frankly. But I appreciate the award in general. And then going back to the very top of the show where you have your neighborhood council elections, I mean, this is a difficult time, and I think vote by mail does make sense. I just want to underscore how poorly executed everyone counts, performed in the past. It was really disturbing and disruptive in the election cycle that I was personally involved in. But I definitely think we should find some other alternative. And I'm not sure we're ready for electronic voting. I keep reading about how, electronic voting here, electronic voting there. It hasn't really worked, unfortunately. And I think in a community, we do want people to come out to the local gym. I know we've got COVID, but we have to find a way, and vote by mail can be that stopgap. Looking at item 3, here is Prop K, which, what a disappointing little pro forma, letter that says, go for it. You can assess the money, because every year they take sort of $25 million out of in order to provide what was promised in 1996 was projects all over the city. And one in Studio City serves as a bold-faced example of exactly what's wrong with the Neighborhood Empowerment Group, because all of the participants in Studio City who were in our legacy neighborhood council knew about this disgusting project to take our small gym and turn it into
Thank you.
a giant
Please move on to your
basketball
general
court.
public comment.
Thank you. Into a giant basketball court on our open space. And Krikorian and Mike Fuhr and all these operatives were basically doing the minimum. It's called minimum requirementalism. And I know by now, David Ruiz heard me say it. He must scratch his head, go, what's he talking about? It means doing the absolute minimum. That posting a flyer on the bulletin board at the rec center is not sufficient notice to the community that we're thinking of taking your open space and parking a tribute to Mayor Garcetti's, ego on it. It's not appropriate. We're not doing a big, green, expensive $16 million thing in our beautiful grassy place where our kids and our families and our dogs go. So it's very hard when neighborhood empowerment and the whole neighborhood council kind of turns a blind eye to that and fights me, Semi Park and Raquel Beltran, who has allowed Randall Freed, who is essentially Randy Fraud, to come in and just cancel my participation because I drag
Thank you for
out
your comments. Caller with the last four digits ending in 7006, please press star 6 to unmute. Then please state your name and the items you would like to speak on.
David Wu for City Council.
Caller with a private number, please press star 6 to unmute. Then please state your name and the items you would like to speak on. Caller with a private number, please press star 6 to unmute. Then please state your name and the items you would like to speak on. One last time, caller with a private number, please press star 6 to unmute. Please state your name and the items you would like to speak on. Mr. Chair, that takes care of public comment.
Great, thank you, Andrew. And that was the last caller. We can now close public comment. So colleagues, I want to recommend that we take items 2 to 8 on consent. And Mr. Clerk, we do not have a recommendation attached to the clerk's report on item 8. So I just want to make sure we're just receiving and filing that item.
Yes, sir.
Note and file.
Great. So 2 to 8. Seeing no objections, Mr. Clerk, can you take a roll, please?
Certainly, sir. Councilmember David Drew,
Yes.
Councilmember Mitchell Farrell,
Aye.
Councilmember Karen D. Price.
Aye.
Items 2 to 8 are moved, sir.
Thank you. So we will move on to item number 1 on today's agenda. Daryl, do you want to read that into the record, please?
Yes, sir. Item number 1, City Clerk and Department of Neighborhood Empowerment Joint Report relative to the conduct of the Neighborhood Council elections during COVID-19 pandemic.
Mr. Chair, I'd like to just read into the record that community impact statements were submitted for this item. They're from the Empowerment Congress West Area Neighborhood Council, the Los Feliz Neighborhood Council, the Northridge East Neighborhood Council, Granada Hills North Neighborhood Council, and the United Neighborhoods Neighborhood Council. And earlier this morning, the Northridge East Neighborhood Council filed a second CIS as a result of a second action taken at its meeting last night.
Thank you for that. I understand that we have the General Manager for the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment here, Raquel, as well as Holly, our City Clerk and her team with us today. Could you and your teams walk us through the report, as well as Department of Neighborhood Empowerment's proposed outreach strategy and related costs? And then we'll open up to questions.
Good afternoon, Holly Walcott, City Clerk, Office of the City Clerk. Sophia Aguiano is also here on my staff to help make this presentation. On August 26th, 2020, the City Council approved this City Clerk's recommendation, Council File 20-0963, which approved the neighborhood councils moving to vote by mail given the pandemic situation. However, the committee had several questions that they asked both the City Clerk and Department of Neighborhood Empowerment to report back on, and this report answers those questions. This report is to provide an update on the development and implementation of vote-by-mail elections, additional resources required to conduct outreach successfully, engaging the unhoused neighbors in neighborhood council elections, and the cost of managing at poll or online elections. And let me just briefly say before I turn it over to Sophia that in order to do any type of online election, the city clerk would be required to go out to an RFP, and that process is lengthy. And also, having been through it before, the problem generally is not with any vendor providing the election itself. everything is an issue around the database itself, the voter registration database. There's where all of the issues, because most, if not all vendors, assume that we were providing them with a list of residential, a database of registered voters based on the county register recorder, and that's generally not what we have. But that's just, you know, a brief comment to that. And with that, I will turn it over to Sophia, and of course, happy to stay on to answer any questions.
Good afternoon, council members. I'm here to respond to any questions. So essentially, we have gone and participated in several neighborhood council meetings where we received input regarding providing a longer period for voter registration. So the voter registration period right now is for 60 days, but there was a huge outpour of comments regarding allowing a longer period. So as such, we have requested $55,000 that would cover 2 as-needed staff members. They would be senior election clerks. What they would do is that they would distribute paper applications around the city to partner agencies, and they would also assist stakeholders with filling the application out, qualifying them, and then entering them into our online portal. So we're still also working with the County of Los Angeles recorder regarding the drop-off location. So there was also input regarding using their Dropbox locations for neighborhood council elections. That's something that we're working on. As you know, currently they're quite busy with the upcoming election. So our plan is to meet with them after that to see how we can expand on Dropbox locations. But I'm here to answer any questions.
Raquel, you want to go?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and members of the committee. Good afternoon. Very happy to be here today and follow up to our presentations to you in the past about what we propose to do as it relates to conducting outreach for the vote by mail elections for the neighborhood council system. It gives us great pleasure to join you here this afternoon. Our plan is created to support the vote by mail neighborhood council election system that is designed by the office of the city clerk in this unique time in the unique period of the pandemic, given safer stay-at-home orders and safer LA instructions that we're all abiding by, and the support that is needed really to do this effectively into 2021. There are 3 deadlines in the clerk's plan for the VBM election. The first is the candidate deadline, the second is the stakeholder application deadline, and the last is the ballot return deadline, broadly speaking. Neighborhood councils elections will happen over a dozen dates over a 6-month period of time, and are conducted in about 99 unique sets of rules. Some of them are selections, so they won't necessarily be part of this process. Those rules are determined oftentimes by the neighborhood council bylaws, and that creates an opportunity to administer this outreach following some very dramatically different participation experiences that each neighborhood council has. The election strategy plan reflects input that was collected over an extended period of time, with information that even started actually at the end of the 2019 election that we brought forward in response to the comments that the department received after that election. A joint survey to neighborhood councils was released on August the 27th with the due date of September 7th. The survey included specific questions related to engaging our unhoused neighbors as an example of the kind of data that we've been collecting over the past minimal 6 months, in addition to that which we carried over from 2019. 4 evening area feedback sessions were convened in South Los Angeles, East Central Los Angeles, North, South Valley area, and Harbor West areas in Los Angeles. Following the initial report that we provided the committee, additional detail was requested about our outreach strategy, and we've provided that to you today. And in that description have provided far more clarity, we believe, about what might be possible with additional resources in order to conduct a successful outreach effort for these elections. The plan embraces the core value of partnerships, relationships, and connecting City Hall to the community in order to carry out these elections. It's anchored on local and regional partnerships, trusted voices that will help us raise awareness about the NC system, drive increased participation in the system, to the system, both in terms of having more Angelenos run for their neighborhood council seat and having more Angelenos participating civically with their neighborhood councils. The system is designed to also create a foundation for future success of neighborhood councils as after the election process. We've created a database of multi-ethnic language journalists, community partners who serve under-participating segments of the community, and we continue to build on that database in order to engage these trusted partners by having including strategies that are locally reflective of what each neighborhood council would like to do, working in partnership with their outreach and election chairs, and of course, all of the elected offices that equally serve these communities. Since our original presentation, we've made some changes to the strategy, mainly by eliminating the election assistance position. And so as a result, there is a change that we are requesting in terms of action by the committee today, and that is requesting that the Controller's Office appropriate $456,000 from UB 2020 General Municipal Election line item 158580310 to empower LA Fund 100, Department 47, $60,000 to printing and binding, account 2120, $316,000 to contractual services account 3040, and $80,000 to office and administration account 6010.2. We're happy to respond to detailed questions related to the report that we provided to you today, but in broad terms, it allows for both micro-targeting, micro-strategies in order to address some of the issues that are unique to a particular neighborhood council's experience. Some neighborhood councils have vacancies, bringing in community-based partners to try to fill those vacancies in a very structured and organized way, along with some macro targeting in order to increase turnout in the elections, is the way that this is embraced. It also includes general awareness strategy that would embrace general awareness so that all neighborhood councils would be served, hopefully equally, with this outreach strategy. We appreciate the opportunity to be here and present to you and are happy to respond to questions. Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you, Raquel, and thank you, Holly. Thank you to Dunn and to the city clerk for this report. You guys done some very incredible, good work here and laid out an incredibly comprehensive plan in such a short time that you had to do so. And of course, overlaid with COVID and all the extra circumstances that are facing us. But I do have some questions. I'm going to lead them off. And I'm going to check if my colleagues have questions as well. First off, I just want to make it clear. Maybe you either Dunn or clerk could re-clarify. Because of COVID, we will not be having in-person voting for neighborhood councils, correct?
Correct.
Holly Walcott, that's correct.
So we're only doing vote by mail, but can you guys walk us through again? I'm not talking about the stakeholder status, but I'm saying that who is eligible to vote. So pretty much everyone is eligible to vote, but you must register to vote by mail with the neighborhood council or walk us through that process in order to get a ballot for neighborhood council. That's the first question. If you could clarify all of that one more time. And secondarily, if I am a registered voter and if I am registered to a permanent absentee ballot with the county of with the county registrar recorder's office, do I still need to register for neighborhood council? So if you could answer those two.
Go ahead, Sophia.
Good afternoon, Councilmember here again. So the response to your first question is that we actually, under the vote by mail model, will now offer a longer period for voter registration. So you don't have to actually register on the day of the election. You have up to 29 days prior to the election to register. Also, we expanded the paper application period. So you've got up to 90 days to register via paper application as a voter. In terms of whether you're a permanent absentee voter for the county election, unfortunately, those are two separate type of voter eligibility. So if you want to participate in the neighborhood council elections, you must file a voter registration form in order to receive a ballot.
Great, thank you for that. So I just want to make sure the public understands. Pretty much everyone is eligible to vote, but regardless of whether you're already registered with state of California and the county of Los Angeles and a permanent absentee ballot voter, this is a separate election, a separate system just for the city of LA. So you must register for a vote by mail, as Sophia indicated. Thank you for that. Great. Secondarily, depending on when the funding is approved, when the contracts are executed, and outreach being conducted, the allocations obviously that you guys laid out might change. So I wanted to ask, is there a flexibility? What flexibilities have been built into the outreach strategy to reallocate funding or reprioritize other forms of engagement as needed?
Mr. Chairman, this is Raquel Beltran. Happy to go first, if you like. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. One thing I would like to share in starting to respond to your question is that the department has already started the process to begin, especially because Region 5 is right upon us, and we're really focused on Region 5 at this point. We've already started the process of beginning to reach out to the neighborhood councils. There are 9 neighborhood councils in that region, just to use as an example, to formulate a customized plan. Other regions, discussions with other regions will follow in the month of November. So for example, for Central and for East, Central and East region areas, we are scheduled to with a meeting with the community-based organizations on November 5th. We're already reviewing our existing tools to prep them for use into 2021. We're not hiring a graphic designer to start everything from new. We're already beginning to look at what we already have to be able to move it forward. On October 29th, neighborhood councils are invited to a social media training that will emphasize digital outreach strategies to promote their elections. And also, we started prepping neighborhood councils to prepare outreach videos themselves by contracting a professional who, among other things, works with HBO to show neighborhood councils how to create videos promoting their excellent work. To bring elected offices into the process, which is part of the election strategy plan, we've scheduled a briefing on Monday with council offices and the mayor's office. Following that briefing, we'll have a customized set of information for each council office to use to support the neighborhood council elections in their regions. So generally speaking, with the resources we have, this is what we're going to be moving forward with. To your broader question, Mr. Chairman, what I would say is we've designed this in a way that hopefully gives us the flexibility to make those shifts as necessary. If it turns out that we can't get enough community-based partners that have the capacity to do what we've got described in our plan, which would be having communities partners who can deliver 10 candidates and 300 votes to that election. If they don't have the capacity to do that, we might shift it back to the regional partners that we hope to engage and make those adjustments in that scope of work. And we would design the language and the scope of work with that in mind.
Thank you for that. And can you restate Region 5? What communities are in Region 5?
With respect to which neighborhood council, sir?
Yes.
Those are primarily what we generally refer to as the Hollywoods, generally speaking.
Great. Just want to let you know. And I'm very excited about the community partners. Let's make sure there's a lot of great community partners in the Hollywood area that could really help with outreach. So let's make sure we do that as robustly as possible. And let me know if you need additional support from my office on that as well. Can you also talk about how you plan to engage our unhoused neighbors and what the outreach relationship with our service providers will look like?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, General Manager Beltran. Empowerle convened a special meeting of the Neighborhood Council Homelessness Liaisons. It's actually, of the liaison groups that we have, it's one of the more active liaison groups of neighborhood council leaders in the neighborhood council system. That meeting took place on August the 29th. in preparation for this committee's previous discussion on election outreach. The mayor's office of Mochi that serves the homeless, their team has also met with us and suggested strategies that they believe we should consider in our election strategy plan. Representatives of and agencies of service providers of the homeless participated in our 7 vote by mail feedback sessions, also contributed thought and suggestions on how we might include our reach out to our unhoused neighbors as part of this plan. And we've had 2 meetings with LASA, including one as recent as last Tuesday. Over 153 service providers participated in that presentation. That was a joint presentation by our office, our department, and the office of the city clerk about the elections. We requested support for the elections, the clerk specifically, and I'm not wanting to speak for you, Ms. Langiano, you'll feel free to elaborate further on that, but since I'm here just kind of summarizing that, I'll just quickly mention the clerk has requested 3 things specifically. One is to request that the providers host a vote by mail paper application display, serve as a ballot pickup location, and host a ballot box in their facilities. So we're already reaching out to these community-based organizations to get them part of the infrastructure to help our unhoused neighbors participate and hopefully ultimately serve on neighborhood council boards.
Great. And what benchmarks are we including in the contracts with the community-based organizations being onboarded to do the outreach? In other words, what's the measure of success for these organizations?
So as a General Manager Beltran, Mr. Chairman, as a speaking specifically about the unhoused organizations that serve unhoused neighbors, we're hoping to recruit 7 that would be willing to, work with us. The scope of work that we envision at this point would be to deliver 2,100 votes, specifically from unhoused neighbors throughout the city specifically. And in terms of the community-based partners, we envision a very structured scope of work and contract that might have 2 or 3 installments, for example, built into those contracts that would have our goal in our plan as we presented to you would have each community-based organization recruiting and delivering 10 candidates per CBO and 300 votes at the end of the process. So we've calculated that to be between the number of CBOs that we would like to bring into the process, about 15,000 votes into the process. There were 22,000 votes cast in 2019. So through the structured contractual relationship, that's what our goal would be. The payments to the CBOs would be structured around that. So they would need to show us that they've delivered the 10 candidates to fill those vacancies where neighborhood councils are struggling to fill their boards. And at the end of the process, we would have perhaps a 3rd or 2nd installment based on their ability to demonstrate that they delivered the 300 votes per community-based organization that the contract would provide. We would have to work very closely with the city clerk's office in order to provide them the lists, in order to do that cross-referencing. So there's a lot of work on the back end that would be required to monitor that, but that's what we have in mind, sir.
Mr. Chair?
Sure. Go ahead, Ali.
If I may, I would strongly recommend that both the Department of Neighborhood, and I apologize because I only heard about this part today, but I would strongly suggest that the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment and the city clerk meet with the city attorney relative to these contracts, because there may be some ethical problem relative to structuring a contract around delivering votes.
So we will do that, Mr. Chairman. This is General Manager Beltran. The city attorney's office reviews all of our contracts, and so they'll be giving us clearance for all of this as we move forward.
Right, and that's a great point, Holly. As much as we want to make sure we have a robust outreach and robust voter turnout, but obviously we got to do everything within legal jurisdiction. So thank you for pointing that out. Members, do you have any questions or comments? Councilman O'Farrell, you go first.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just one question. First of all, thank you for the reports, Ms. Beltran. Excellent and comprehensive. Ms. Anguiano, Ms. Walcott, thanks for your work on this. And the question I have is in relation to the ballot boxes that you are providing, one in each neighborhood council. Are those collected by Empower LA, or is it through the U.S. Postal Service?
It's through the city clerk's office, Councilman.
Okay, so city clerk's office, but so the post office isn't involved, so the city would collect those boxes ourselves.
That is correct.
So no postage is necessary.
No.
No, but they could, Holly Walcott, but they could also use the U.S. Postal Service should they wish.
Right. I figured as much. So I could imagine there could be some possible confusion in that. Yeah, I think that would need to be made really clear on the outside of the envelope or something if that consideration hasn't already been made. But those are great options. Just want to make sure that consideration is made on any possible confusion.
And voters will be provided with a postage paid envelope. So if they wish to use USPS, we are funding the postage for that. But if they opt to use one of our drop boxes on election day, that will be provided and no postage will be necessary for that.
Perfect. So whether or not they use the Postal Service or the drop boxes, no harm, no foul.
That is correct.
Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman O'Farrell. Councilman Price?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I too just want to thank Holly and your team for taking the lead on this very important issue. Neighborhood councils are really the bedrock, as the chairman said on many occasions, really the bedrock of our neighborhoods, and we should be doing all we can to help promote them and to assist them, as I think we're doing in this process. Talk a little bit more about the partners that we're going to be retaining to help recruit candidates in areas where we have some weak neighborhood council activity. How are you determining where, first of all, how are you determining where they're going to be working and how they're going to be assigned and how that whole process is evolving?
Yes, Mr. Chairman, General Manager Beltran and Council Member Price. We would plan to start by the process that was used as a benchmark in 2019. And that was in looking at neighborhood councils that may have had low voter turnout, that had a high percentage of vacancies, that may have been an exhaustive effort over the previous 12-month period of time. Neighborhood councils that are having challenges having meetings because they're having difficulty meeting quorum, as an example. So we would be looking at, we have data on it. We would be looking to target neighborhood councils that are just struggling to sustain their month-to-month operations, where a greater number of participants with greater opportunities to have a committee structure, because you have more people on board that would be available to do the work of the neighborhood council, where there would be that kind of benefit. That would be
I'm saying I agree. I think this is the kind of hand-holding that some of our neighborhoods need.
Yes,
can you give us a list of those that you're targeting is for assistance and
yes.
And then when are these organizations going to be selected to do the actual recruiting and
yes? So our process.
Assistance?
Forgive me for interrupting, sir. My apologies.
Go ahead.
Our process for selecting community-based organizations is going to be in about 3 parts. One is we've already somewhat completed, where we developed a database. We've worked on that for the past 3 months. So we have sort of a foundation of community-based organizations that provide a wide range of services. It could be youth-focused services, it could be senior services, it could be just community-based services as a whole. So now we feel like we've got a really good comprehensive list. We've been working on that for the past 6 months. However, our process would be probably to start with the council offices and the neighborhood councils to see what organizations they think would be the best partners to engage in this level of activity. We would combine, we probably have those already on our list, but we want to be sure that we touch base with each city council office and with the neighborhood councils to see who they perceive to be the trusted partners that could actually do this work. Then we'll circle back, and that would be the point at which, with each council office, we can provide you the target list that we might have in mind and what that criteria would have been for that council district, and to also begin to think about which of those organizations have the capacity to do this kind of work. The list is long, but it doesn't mean that they all have the capacity. In some cases, we may have a longer list of CBOs that have the capacity, but we don't have the financial resources to invest in all of that. So we're going to have to scale back based on dollars as well, sir.
Okay. Well, thank you. Well, we're looking forward to working with you. We want to do all we can at CD9 to help to collaborate with you in this effort. So just keep us posted.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, Councilmember Price. Since there are no more further questions, I want to recommend that we amend the joint report before us. And here are the recommendations. The first one is authorize the controller to appropriate $55,000 from the unappropriated balance general municipal elections 2020 line item 100/58/580310 to the city clerk, Fund 100, Department 14, salaries as needed, account 001070. Second, authorize the controller to appropriate $456,000 from the UB General Municipal Elections 2020 line item 100/58/580310 to Department of Neighborhood Empowerment, Fund 100, Department 47, as follows: $60,000 to printing and binding, account 002120, $316,000 to contractual services, account 003040, and $80,000 to the Office of Administration, account 006010. Third, instruct the Department of Neighborhood Empowerment to report back on subsequent financial status reports for the remainder of fiscal year 2020-2021 regarding the expenditure expenditure of outreach funds allocated to the 2021 neighborhood council elections, including any current or projected cost savings. 4, instruct the city clerk to request from the Office of the County Registrar Recorder, County Clerk, the use of ballot drop boxes for the 2021 neighborhood council elections and report back with a status update and any additional resources needed. And lastly, authorize the CAO to make technical corrections as needed to those transactions included in this report to implement mayor's and council's intentions. Members, any objections? Seeing none, Eric, can you take a vote?
Certainly, Mr. Chair. Councilmember David Drew.
Yes.
Councilmember Micho Farrell.
Aye.
Councilmember Karen D. Price.
Aye.
The item is approved as amended, sir.
Thank you. The item is approved as amended. And Mr. Clerk, do we have any additional items of business to take care of?
That clears the desk, sir.
Thank you. Thank you, colleagues. Thank you to the department heads and staff. This meeting is adjourned. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks all.